Hello and welcome back to an episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today, I'm very pleased. Joining me, a friend we've met, I think, 1.5 years ago in the VC Lab cohort. And then we stayed in touch. I have with me today James Oliver. He is the Kabila founder, mental health fund founder. Today, it's kind of a topic I discussed long time ago, and I thought that James have just published a book, and when I saw that, we just exchanged some notes, and I thought that it would be a good idea to have James today with me on the show. As my audience know, I don't like to steal much from my guests' time. I keep the intros for them. So James, again, welcome to the CTO show. Little bit maybe about you, your background, and what brought you to start the Kabila Founder Mental Health Fund, and then we're gonna deep dive into the conversation from there. So the floor is yours.
Excellent. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Good to see you, and thank you everyone out there listening. So I am, I'm a husband to an amazing wife, co-founder of the world's cutest twins. I am the founder of the Kabila Founder Mental Health Fund, which is a nonprofit that pays for mental therapy for U.S.-based founders who want it but can't afford it for whatever reason. I'm, as you mentioned, I'm a newly published author. This is actually my second book, but my newly published author of a book called Burn Bright, Not Out: Shattering the Silence Around Mental Health in Tech Startups. And the book's amazing. It's not just because of the remarkable stories from really great investors and founders, but because 90% of the book's net profits actually go back to the nonprofit to help solve the problem, which is that I think it was according to Startup Snapshot. It's a generally accepted stat around, founder mental wellness. It's like 72% of founders are struggling in some capacity with their mental health or wellness. So because we actually take the money from the book to go back to the nonprofit to solve the problem, I like to argue that it's the most important book about founder mental health written to date because it actually goes back and it helps solve the problem.
Fantastic. Um, James, I like to always, go to find the root cause of anything that usually majority of the cases I have founders with me, like they are building something, they're solving a problem. But for you, I'm gonna ask, we know the mental health, and it's not only for founders, like the world is changing at a very fast pace, like
Yeah.
a lot of stress, especially these times we're passing through now. But if you want to go and focus on entrepreneurs, tech founders, you know many reasons could lead to the need for having this mental health support.
Yeah.
From your experience dealing with a lot of founders, how all this starts, like what are like the main causes is that founders face, so they find themselves into this position, I would say.
Well, so before I answer that, because I think what I'm about to say might help answer that, at least in terms of me. At the top,
Sure.
you said you wanted to know why I'm doing this. Do you want me to go back and tell that story? Because I think that would
Both.
be a segue into the answer to that question and be connected to that question. So, look, I'm a multi-time founder. Um, I I got to go all the way back to like 2011 when I cleaned out the last of my savings. I think it was like $35,000. I'm not non-technical founder, and I was building an alpha version of a website that lets you turn your digital images into removable photo wallpaper. And so while I was working on this, my kid's mother, wanted to have kids, and so we did IVF, and we put in 2 embryos. I was grinding on this thing. I was running out of money, and in 2012, we put in 2 embryos, and we found out, there was going to be 2 babies, and we're like, wow, yay! And I'm like, holy crap! Like here I am, like out of money, grinding on a startup, trying to make something out of nothing. I'm living all the way in Northeast Wisconsin, in Neenah, Wisconsin, which is right next to Appleton, Wisconsin. It's about 30 miles south of Green Bay, and I'm 1,000 miles from friends and family because I'm from Brooklyn, New York. And so I just like, I need to try to get into an accelerator to have a chance to raise some money to give this startup a go. And so I got into Generator. I think it was a second cohort in for the winter 2013. And that was a 2-hour drive each way to Madison, Wisconsin. And the program started in January, was going to be over. I think demo day was April 3rd. And the kids were supposed to be born March 27th. So I'm like, okay, cool. The timing of all this works brilliantly. I'm gonna go to this thing. I'm gonna raise some money. Yay, right? It's all looking good. Let's go. I got in. Let's go, baby. Right. So then we went for a routine checkup. The doctors were noticing some kind of weird thing going with my son's blood flow.
Mhm.
So they were like, if the blood starts to go backward, we're gonna have to do an emergency C-section. Right. So checked into the hospital. I think the next day they were like, blood's going backward. We have to do an emergency C-section right now. And the kids were born, and this was 2 days before I was supposed to start the accelerator, mind you. Right. So
Oh,
that whole little timing thing I told you about, that's out the window now, right? So the kids were 3 months premature. They weighed 2 pounds each. My son was 1 pound, 14
oh.
ounces, and my daughter was 2 pounds, 3 ounces. So now I'm driving back and forth to the NICU from Madison, back and forth to the accelerator, just like really struggling with, the stress of it all. 'Cause my son really was not doing well. Like he had to have a blood transfusion and he had to have a hernia operation. Little guy was not doing well. I could fit him in my hand when he was born. And so I used to wake up every morning at like 2, 3 in the morning. I couldn't sleep. Like my face was horribly breaking out. I was stressed out, man. And was crying every day. Like Mehmet, if you would have come up to me and say, "Hey, good morning, James," I just sort of started crying. I just was crying every day. So, I managed to get through the accelerator, and we got to demo day. And right before I was going on stage, I remember one of the angel groups I pitched. I got a call. He said, "Hey, this is so and so from so and so angel group. We're going to fill your whole round." Back then, I was only raising like $250,000. We're going to fill your whole round. I'm like, "What do you mean?" He said, "We're going to give you $250,000." And I just like dropped to my knees and I just cried and I just thank God because after everything I went through to get to that point. And so my daughter came home from the NICU after 6 weeks. My son came home after 10 weeks, still like tethered to oxygen and this beeping machine. It was like, beeping all night long, which I still think to this day is why I have PTSD, why I don't like being woken up in the middle of the night. Always apologizing to my wife now because when she wakes me up with snoring or whatever, I get really angry to be woken up in the middle of the night. I think it's from that. Um, so, raised a little bit of money and, honestly raised just enough to fail, but the product was brilliant, right? We got it on a Today Show on my own without a publicist. I got it on the Today Show 3 times. Good Morning America, Money Magazine came out to the house, did a wonderful article, phenomenal video, DIY Network, and Martha Stewart's blog, on and on and on. Just tons of PR. And, just a pro tip for any founders out there chasing PR, thinking that's going to help them. Like, it's not. Like, PR is not going to solve your cash flow problems if you have a customer acquisition problem. So I think it's better to spend your time getting your customers to tell 10 of their friends about your business versus chasing PR. But anyway, so we ran out of money, had to come back home. So like I got young twins, I'm working from home, taking care of the twins, man, just nuts, right? So I mean, ultimately, the startup was failing for a while, and I just was because I'm in the 99 percentile of persistent and resilient people on the planet. I just kept going, But today I like to say that just because I'm resilient AF doesn't mean I always want to have to be because it's extremely exhausting.
Mhm.
So anyway, the startup was failing. My mental health was failing. Ultimately, the startup failed. The children's mother filed for divorce. So you add that stress of all that on top of what I just told you. And, I simply wasn't doing that great, and, and back then I didn't have, um, not just that I didn't have access to mental health resources, because I probably could have found a good therapist, but I didn't even know that that was something to do. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? And in what I know today in the startup circles, like there's a stigma around mental health.
Mhm.
Founders feel like it's a sign of weakness to say, hey, I'm not doing so great today. They feel like investors will look at them and be like, oh, well, you're not really investable because you're not well or something like that. And I know at the top I said 72% of founders are having some mental health issues potentially, but I talk to a lot of founders, and 100% of the founders I talk to are like kind of going through it right now because of what you alluded to, my man, at the top. Like things are crazy right now. It's just hard being a founder anyway. Like you're just hearing no all day long. It's just so much of that any one human can take, right? It's a lot,
Right.
right? So um, I I went through Techstars back in 2022, I think fall, and when when I was going through Techstars, we were like, okay, we need to raise a fund to go along with what I was building, and so that's how I ended up in VC Lab, and that's how we met, right?
Yes.
And um, I remember when I was going through VC Lab, you remember that slide that they when they had us put together the deck, the founder value add slide. Remember that slide in the deck?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but for me, that slide always felt like kind of a bit of a throwaway slide. I'm like, because all VCs say that I'm going to add value. I'm going to introduce you to other investors in my network, and I have relationships with other investors, and I'm going to do this and do that. But okay, right. But the one thing I did put in that slide was that I was going to provide access to mental wellness resources for founders because of some of my past work that I had in a nonprofit, helping some founders who are parents and entrepreneurs. I used to provide free mental therapy, and um, and these were Black parents who are entrepreneurs. And in the Black community, historically, they
Mhm.
don't really go to the therapist. But in this community, anytime I dropped a type form, I'm like, hey, we got 5 slots this week for some free mental therapy, virtual mental therapy. That thing would fill up really fast. And I was hearing all these stories, people coming back say, hey, this was super helpful. Thank you so much. Help my mindset. It's helped me get my clear thinking so I could support my business the right way and my family. So I was like, okay, this is great. So this is why when I had that founder value add slide, I'm like, I'm going to continue to do that. Right. So fast forward to the end of VC Lab, we were at cohort 15, I think. And
Yes.
I was doing really well. And I mean, yeah, I was doing a $5 million fund. I'm not getting to all the thesis and all that because I'm not trying to violate, SEC general solicitation rules and all that kind of stuff. But I was doing great. I was on track for a first close. Um, and had a lot of, they have us get those hard commitments over there, meaning a signed LOI, which doesn't mean anybody's going to do anything. It's non-binding, but it's a higher chance that they will versus, hey, yeah, I'm going to put $100,000 into your fund when you're ready to go. Just call me when you're ready. Versus, hey, I just signed this piece of paper, so I'm going to give you $100,000. This probably has a substantially higher conversion rate, which is why they make you do that. So I had a bunch of those things. But then the new U.S. administration came into power, and look, I was first time fund manager, a Black first time fund manager, which comes with its own additional set of challenges that I won't get into here, but it's more challenges versus just being a first time fund manager. Um, and it's like I hit a wall. I like literally hit a wall, man. And then I started feeling like my brains were scrambling. And because I told you I had some mental health, struggles before, in retrospect, at the time, I didn't know I was like functionally depressed, but in retrospect, I know that I was. And so it's like, in my book that we talked about a little bit. So Brad Feld is a co-founder of Techstars. Brad's a legendary investor. He's a partner at Foundry out of Boulder, Colorado. And, Brad's a good
Mhm.
friend. And, Brad is the one who, gave me $25,000 from his Anchor Point Foundation to start the Kabila Founded Mental Health Fund. Um, he also wrote a chapter in my book. And, he's a pioneer. He's one of the first people at that level back in 2013, 2014, who was talking about his mental health challenges with OCD and depression. And in his chapter in the book, which is remarkable, he talks about, he describes, these mental health challenges as demons. He's like, yeah, like I know that demon when it shows up again, right? So for me, I'm like, my brains are being scrambled. Like, I know that demon. And so Nisha Devadas, who is actually in Dubai now, wrote a chapter in the book, and she talked about, and I'm paraphrasing here, that everybody wants to be successful, but how do you show up when you get to success? Right. And she posits that, you want to be whole and healthy and just well. And because that's important to me too, because, the two most important things for me, or two of the most important things for me, are to be a good husband and to be a good dad to my twins. And I can't do that if I'm not well mentally. So I put a pin in raising Kabila Ventures, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go start this nonprofit.
Mhm.
So that's how I ended up getting to the Kabila Founder Mental Health Fund, because of my own personal experience with my mental health challenges. I know the pain and challenges of all that, and I don't want other founders to have to go through that. So once I got that done, then I was talking with a guy named Django who had this startup called Focus on Words, which is an AI platform to write books, and it's great. So I thought my next book was going to be about how to help overlook founders increase their social capital, because I see a lot of them making a lot of mistakes when they're trying to raise money, land big customers, etc. But at the end of my call with Django, it was an intro call, because he just helped. I don't know if you know Daryl Frater out in Tulsa. Do you know Daryl Frater out in Tulsa?
No.
He's a really interesting guy. But Daryl he just published a book called Micro Obedience, Macro Impact. It's about like faith-based entrepreneurship type stuff. So it's really
I need to
interesting.
check it.
Yeah. So I was talking with Daryl. Actually, he's probably a good person to have on your podcast. He's a really interesting guy. If you take a look at his stuff, you want an introduction, like let me know. I'll make an introduction, see if you game to talk to you. Okay. Um. So at the end of the call, because I was like, he's like, you want to publish a book? I'm like, yeah, I got this idea. But by the end of the call, we started talking about mental health, founder mental health, and he's like, I'm really passionate about this. I struggle with my mental health, and he was like, I was like, well, why don't we do a book together, collaborate, and do a book about founder mental health? And he was like, perfect. And I'll just like, after covering the cost, I'll just donate all the money, 90% of the money back to the nonprofit. Like, oh, that's amazing. Let's do that. So the way his platform works is he do an interview, and he'll take that interview and turn it into content from a book. He has these AI agents that go out and do that. So we
Nice.
had, so David Cohn, Techstars CEO and co-founder, wrote the forward. I
Yep,
mentioned
I see that.
I mentioned Brad wrote a great chapter. Will Allen. Will's a retired NFL player. He won a Super Bowl ring with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was a defensive back with the Steelers for some time. He's now a VC in Pittsburgh. And it was really interesting reading his chapter, talking about the things that he learned from his time playing football and how he translates that into coaching founders, and with an emphasis on mental wellness. So it's a really fascinating chapter. And we had just so many good founders, man. Mitch Weiner, who was the co-founder of and CMO of DigitalOcean, which IPO'd. Mitch wrote
Mhm.
a great chapter in the book. Shayla Hauser wrote a chapter about how his startup was supposed to IPO on the NASDAQ, and it was ready to go. And then the whole thing, when the market crashed, the whole thing fell apart. He ended up they sold the business for like $800 million, and he walked away with almost nothing. And yeah, and then he became addicted to, alcohol, and it's remarkable. And then we got another guy, Nick Marriage. He had a startup that he sold to Linktree. And
Mhm.
after, that's the holy grail. Oh, I exited successfully. Yay, right? Okay, but he's writing in his chapter how he was burnt out after he had a successful exit. I'm like, he was experiencing burnout after he had a successful exit. I was like, wait, what? So anyway, just that. And then, I don't know if you know Jeff, oh geez, can't believe him. Can't believe Jeff Johnston from Brighton. His the first chapter in the book, and I it will make your jaw hit the floor, the amount of the things that have happened to him personally and his family, like his son dying from overdose, and then his wife subsequently dying from alcohol abuse, and he had to over. It just like that first chapter will like knock your socks off, man. but just some great founders, great stories in the book. And the point of the book is not to be. I feel like I'm talking a lot here, man. You want to ask a question? You want me to just keep going? Just keep going.
I have a lot of follow-ups, man. Keep
Oh,
going.
keep going. All right. So the point of the book is not to be prescriptive. We're not telling people what to do,
It's
right?
not a playbook.
No, it's not. Like if I wanted to do that, I would have interviewed some neuroscientists. What's the science behind keeping your mind right, right? Getting your thoughts right and manifesting things you want. I would have been focused on that. Like, I mean, I suppose that would be interesting in its own right, but it's not interesting in the way this book is interesting because, the founders and investors won't be able to see themselves. And do you know Mike Ma? You probably know Mike Ma.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Ma. So Mike wrote a phenomenal chapter in the book, bro. Like, so good. Um, so good. Mike's an investor over at Sidecut Ventures. Mike has a great podcast, Alone Together. Have you ever listened to this podcast?
I didn't check it.
You
I'll be honest.
should, man. You would
I
see yourself in that podcast. It's so good. He talks to solo GPs. It's
wow.
good. Yeah, that's you, right?
Uh,
Ish.
ish. Yeah. Ish.
All right. Well, you would resonate. That podcast would resonate with you very deeply. I actually did a recorded episode on this podcast. I'm not sure when it's going to drop. Which, by the way, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, so I think that we're doing this now. If you dropped it in May, that would be perfectly timed.
It
By
gonna
the way,
this will drop. My audience know how transparent I am. So we're recording on the 1st of April. Probably this
yeah.
will be airing in the 2nd or 3rd week of April.
Okay, perfect.
Um,
What's up?
yeah.
It's a
So, but
prelude to
anyway,
Mental Health
it's
Awareness Month.
it's good to do a pre-awareness, maybe 2 weeks
That's
or
it, baby. It's
one
a
week before.
prelude. You're getting ahead of the curve here. That's
But
right.
I gotta stop you one moment here,
Please.
James, because you dropped a lot of valuable, and I like this, and this is why I didn't stop you, right? And there's
Okay.
no this, I will be frank with you. I've done. I think I stopped counting. So I know the count for the podcast, if you check it, is like 500 something. But I always minus 100 because when I started, I was doing solo episodes and then it became all interviews. So the best episodes always I have are the ones who are like, I would call them unscripted, right? And this is why I didn't stop you, because you're telling me stories, but not stories like fantasy stories. These are real
Mm-mm.
stories.
Yeah.
And the most important thing for me, from like, you went through all like your own story, and the stories of people who co-authored the book with you. The thing for me, which this is why I was thinking, I was trying to digest what you were saying, is like, and of course, let's discuss this. So the first thing, because you mentioned about, for example, the exit and people how they see the exit. Oh, like he's a successful startup exit. He did like 2 3 exits or so, whatever.
Yeah.
And people don't know like the nitty gritty, which is like hidden. We don't see that, right? So there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of stress going on. The other thing which you mentioned is about how it's important for entrepreneurs. Look, and this is why I like about the way you wrote the book, because and this is why I told you it's not a playbook, because it's not like,
Mm-hmm. So
like,
you read it?
hey,
Have you read it?
I've done a couple on Kindle, yeah, couple of
Okay,
chapters.
perfect. Perfect.
Um, so the other thing is, the way how you presented it, the way how founders are seen also themselves. And we see a lot of books where you see like, just do this, do not do this, take that, don't take that, which is okay. I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
bad, but I
Yeah.
mean, and then, like, if you go and ask everyone who is currently sitting and thinking of starting something, and you tell them, hey, like, look, like, needs a lot of, I would, if I want to summarize, I would say resilience, right? You need a lot of resilience. They'll tell you, yeah, I'm strong enough. But really, dude, you don't know until you start to be in it, right?
You have no idea.
And I gotta highlight something, and I'm not biased, and this is something for everyone to know, is that there's a mental health. I mean, let's call it like stress.
Mhm.
I would not let it reach to that level yet. Of so founders, and I'm happy because I'm just reading a book now It's here. Yeah, it's called Founders versus Investors. So I'm still reading. I
Okay.
didn't finish it yet, but
Okay.
the whole idea is like two authors. One is a VC, the other is she's a multi-time founder. Now she's an angel investor as well. So the idea is, um, I didn't know this till before the VC lab little bit. I didn't know the struggle that a VC has to do to raise money because the VC themselves they need to do the same
Bro,
fundraising story
you're
that the
like a
founders.
startup founder raising money. It's exactly the same.
Yeah, and the hardest part about it, like if I take a if I take two pitch decks, one from a startup, another one for a fund,
Hmm.
and I'm showing it to someone, I'm pretty sure, you know, if there is a chance for someone writing a check, of course, all the time it will be higher for the startup than the fund. And the reason is at least, even if they are in a pre-seed phase, I mean, they still maybe have only an idea, no MVP, but at least they have something that they can show, right? And they can show themselves. Now, when you
Hmm.
when you go and try to be a VC and ask
Especially a
James
new
about,
fund manager.
yeah, ask James and ask me about it.
Hmm.
It's crazy difficult, and it's you start doubt yourself. Like they tell you, yeah, you it's like you are a sales guy. They tell the founders the same story. You need to be a sales guy. Uh, I was a sales. I'm still a sales guy somehow, right? So I do GTM for startups. And
CTOs
I do.
can't sell. Come on, man. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Sort of.
Yeah. So look, like everything is hard. Everything is hard. Like, but one thing, James, that always I think about it is the denial, right? So you mentioned something important about like founders. They have this fear of being seen as weak. They have the
Mhm,
fear of being not able to raise the next fund.
mhm.
I gonna give an advice. I want to hear your opinion. It's a great movie, and by the way, it's the Apple birthday. I'm a very big fan of Steve Jobs.
Mm.
Go watch the movie, and of course it's a real. I read the
What, the Steve Jobs
biography.
movie?
Yes,
I watched it. I
uh,
read the book. The book was amazing.
the Wake are amazing, and like people who used to see. Okay, I will not use I don't not use bad words, but let's say they used to see Steve Jobs as the arrogant,
Oh, yeah.
as the
Jerk.
jerk,
Mhm,
right? But if you go and really ask people, and people who it's not like they heard from someone, they lived with him, they work with him.
mhm,
He used to go and cry, right? He's
mm,
the founder of the biggest computer companies ever in his time, and still I think it is. So it's not shame that you feel broken. I mean, this this feeling of feeling weak, I don't know how we can tell people it's actually not weakness. It's actually you become stronger when you share your true
mm.
feelings, when you are authentic,
Yeah.
and when you also show your vulnerabilities, of course.
That's the word, vulnerability. I didn't want to interrupt you, but vulnerability
Yeah,
is the new
but
currency.
let me ask
But
you, James.
go
Let me
ahead.
ask you something, and you can
Yeah.
like follow up on what I said. Now, some people might say, "Yeah, I get you. I know. I
Mhm,
need to share it.
mhm.
I need to,"
Yeah.
but some people will take uh will take that as an opportunity to utilize what I have shared. They will use it against me later. What you
Yeah.
tell people?
You know, this is an interesting question. I don't have an exact answer. Like, you can't just be going, showing up, and throwing up all your personal business. Like, that's not a good strategy for anybody. Um, I don't. I think you need to find your tribe, right? Get a good therapist, someone you can open up to and talk to. Um, get around some other like-minded individuals who might be startup founders too, or if you're a new VC, new VC managers, and you could have real, authentic, vulnerable conversations about what you're experiencing. but you don't want to be, on LinkedIn crying about your problems, right? Because everybody
Yeah.
has problems and no one cares, right? I mean, unfortunately, like everybody, and this is the thing, like everybody you meet is dealing with some serious challenges in their lives. So, and I think with that mindset, I'm digressing a little bit here. I have really bad ADHD, and I do that, so I apologize, but I'll bring it back.
No
I'll
worries.
try to. I'll try to see if I can remember. But like, knowing that everybody you meet is dealing with something significant, like it, have some grace, right? Have grace for other people. Like give them the benefit of the doubt. Don't be so hard, so judgmental. Don't be an asshole, as you're starting to say before. Um, but I can't really answer that question. That's my answer to that question. I don't. Yeah, vulnerability is great, but be selective about who you're vulnerable with. So one of the through lines in the book is that all these founders think they're alone. You're not alone. I think
Hmm.
David said that in his chapter. Brad said in his chapter. Um, Lauren Goodell, that was the title of her chapter. You are not alone. Over and over and over, everybody's like, "You're not alone. You're not alone." If you need help, Brad's like, "If you need help, reach out." Like he means that. He means that, right? I don't know if you know. Well, Mark Feinberg is a good friend of mine. Mark was having like some suicidal ideation or something back in the day. Didn't know Brad. Reached out to Brad, and Brad was like super helpful to him and their friends over the years because of it. Like he says it, he means it. And the other thing is in in the book, the other through line is it's okay to ask for help. It's not a weakness, it's actually strength to have the self awareness to know that you need help. And going back to something else you said about the book not being prescriptive, like everybody in the book in their chapter talked about what they do to manage their mental health and wellness, right? Not everybody goes to a therapist. Look, what can we do so that you don't have to go to a therapist? So I don't know if you know Calm, the Calm app.
Yep.
So David Coe was kind enough to donate. I think it was like 100 free premium Calm app subscriptions for 3 months to me, which I've been giving away to founders, and I love that because I'm looking for ways. How can I go upstream before somebody needs to go see a therapist? Right? How can I help them manage their mental health and wellness so that they don't have to see a therapist? Or how can I use this as a tool in between therapy appointments? But in the book, like some people rely on their faith, some people exercise, some people meditate, some people do yoga, right? Some people ride their bike, some people journal, some people do this, and this. Look, my thing is this: do whatever works for you, man. Right?
James, James, I gonna ask you something, and I know like if someone is listening or watching this, they might hammer me later in some parts of the world.
Oh,
Um,
okay. I'm hold on. I'm
because,
sitting in. I'm buckling up now. What are you about to say?
yeah, because even I wrote about it in a different aspect not related to mental health, but I think again it resonates here. I'm not biased. I consider myself a man who read a lot, tried as much as possible to understand different
Mm-hmm,
cultures, ecosystems, whatever you want to call it. I mean,
mm-hmm.
when I say cultures, I mean, like it's not like the culture of the, country itself, or like
I
it's not in
understand.
that sense. Like the business culture, like the way people do, their normal day-to-day lives and
Okay.
so on. Now, in the US,
Okay.
right? It's very normal, right? Maybe I met James one time. You,
Mm-hmm,
okay?
mm-hmm,
It's
mm-hmm.
very normal. I pick up the phone. Hey, James. You remember like we met in this event and we talked about this? Hey, like I have this thing. I'm not sure if you can introduce me to someone who might help, or I'm not sure if you are able to guide me how to do this. And I'm sure James would tell me, "Hey, yeah, Mehmet, yeah, sure, good to hear from you back. Let me check. I'll get back to you," and he will get back to me.
Right.
Unfortunately, this doesn't exist in some ecosystems, right? And at least
Ecosystems or cultures? Or what are you saying? What are you talking about?
ec-
Stop beating around the bush, man. Just say it.
I'm not hiding behind the bushes because if I say culture, this might people they think that people here are rude, right? People are not rude, but it's something,
Some people
right?
are rude.
Some people are rude everywhere, all over the place. We can find
Yeah,
rude
yeah,
people,
for sure.
but in some yeah, let's call it culture. Yeah, let's not hide it. Like, but I
No,
mean, this culture is it's not related. Believe me, because like the US has a lot of people from all over the place, from
that's
all
right.
over the world, right? And they bring their own cultures there, right?
That's right.
Yeah. But in some places, if you try to reach someone, they ignore you, they
Okay.
ghost you.
Okay.
Uh, if they are nice enough, they will say, yeah, okay, we'll see. And they never come back to you. So the
Mm,
problem is, I believe, I'm not saying it's easy in the US than other parts of the world, but
mhm.
for people who are in this kind of, I would say, culture, yeah, let's call it culture,
Okay.
this becomes so hard because they cannot go and ask, right? So if they, and you talked about the tribe. So how important is bonding with same-minded people become here in this situation if you don't have, like, even if I have done some business with you, like,
Yeah.
it was a transaction, it wasn't like really a real human to human relationship. So how much the tribe, become more important here, I would say.
Uh, I think the tribe's important. Look, I can't speak to other cultures. I mean,
Mhm.
I lived abroad. I lived in Barcelona for 3 months. I finished my MBA in Barcelona. I mean, I've traveled some, but I haven't lived extensively in other cultures. Um,
Mhm.
but and that was a while ago, so I don't know what Barcelona is like these days. Um, but I suspect that just purely from a human nature standpoint, it's just me speculating here, that connecting with like-minded people is going to be important, probably no matter where you live. Do you agree with that or no?
um it depends, I would say.
How so? Please tell me how.
you know People act as they see, you know when you are new to a place, you see what
Hmm.
people do there, and you try to do the same thing as them.
Hmm.
And if something you find that people are not doing, you tend to become same as them. You don't do what they do. The breakthrough comes when someone is courageous enough, is strong enough to say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna do this, whatever, I don't care what people will think about me. They think I'm crazy, they think I'm
Hmm.
this, they think I'm that, and they
Hmm.
go and do it. Because I don't want to be harsh in the words, but people act you know like that to be part of the herd, right? This is,
Well, yeah, that's most people. But okay, so I feel like you're tiptoeing around this a little bit, and that's fine. But at the top of your comments, you
I'm
said
trying to be
so.
nice.
No, you are, but like I don't really understand what you're talking about. So I would be great if you could just say what you're thinking because I don't really understand like the context clues that you're trying to leave. And you also said that some people will really get upset by what you're saying, but so far for me, and this may be just cultural, yeah, I haven't heard you say anything that's offensive. So, like,
Oh yeah.
which part of what you're saying or what you haven't said do you think would be so offensive to people, so egregious that they would be up in arms by what you're saying? Like, which
Yeah, I
part is
don't
that?
want to. I Of course I don't want to generalize, James, but I
Yeah.
mean, I will talk about the MENA region where I'm based now, right? So
Where? What region?
in MENA region, I'm in Dubai. I'm based in Dubai, as you know.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
right. So
You
we
should look up
see
Nisha
these.
Devadas. She's in Dubai.
So we see these networking events. We see all these things, and then but once you try to reach after a networking event, or like, let's say you met someone and you try
Yeah.
to follow up later,
Yeah.
and you try to establish this, of course, like, it's not as transaction. Hey dude, how can I help you? How can I add something to you, right? So this is how
Hmm.
you start to build the trust. But it's like, it's my own experience which I
Hmm.
faced, and this is why I stopped going to these kinds of gatherings, at least for the past 1 year or so. Because
Hmm.
for 2 years, 2023, 2024, part of 2025, I got this excitement. Yeah, you talk a lot of things there. Yeah, right. And it's not related like either fundraising or anything else. Like, it's just, seeking business help, right? Simple,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Um, so, and when you go out of these gatherings, and even if you try to meet this guy,
Mhm.
outside the next time, you see a
Mhm.
different face over there. So it's like
Mhm.
you have masks on people. Again, I'm not generalizing here. I'm not
I think that's
accusing
true
anyone.
here too in the US. I don't that
I
makes
don't
sense to
know.
me. I think it's
I
true.
don't know.
I think
Yeah,
it's true.
like still from my podcast experience, um, if I reach out to any of my podcast guests
Yeah.
now, especially the ones who are in the US, and I ask
Yeah.
them a favor, believe it or not, there's no one time I didn't get an answer. Even if they told me, hey, Mehmet, like,
Yeah.
great what you are trying to do, or let's say,
Yeah.
wow, I'm excited about what you're doing, but hey, dude, like, I can't help. This is for me is good, right?
Yeah,
Rather
absolutely, it's
than,
good. A quick no is
rather,
always good, right?
exactly, rather than reaching to someone and never coming back to me, right? Like,
Yeah.
hey, like,
Or you're
we
chasing them forever for a no. It's like,
yeah, but anyway,
just say
and
no. Yeah.
what I'm trying to relate this is also affect founders, um I would say, believe, and this, and when they see like they have a lot of rejections, this affect also their mental health. This is what I'm trying to get it back,
Yeah. It
and
does.
related
It
to,
can.
I'm trying also to relate it to, again, that it's not only for founders, it's also for fund managers or
Mhm.
emerging fund managers. They're gonna
Yes.
hit the same wall also as well. So the whole thing, the whole idea I'm trying to say, James, like, it's a blessing to have, this tribe. It's a blessing to establish, these relationships even at the beginning. You don't just go out and try to get something out of it. You build for the long term, and
Yeah.
really you try to establish a true friendship. So I'm kind
Mhm.
of sharing my own experience because I struggled a lot, especially 2024 was a little bit tough,
Mhm.
because I was getting out of this reality. A guy who was like in just the corporate world, you have this, everything set up, everything is, and then you try to go out by yourself and figure out how things gonna work.
Yeah.
And then at the beginning, people comes to you and say, "Hey, like, yeah, like, let's do things," and then you figure out that that's, I'm not generalized again, but 90% of that was
Yeah, it's fluff,
mirage.
right? It's not real. Yeah, no, for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
yeah.
that's normal.
But this affect the mental health, right? This is
Well,
what
yeah,
I'm
of course
trying
it
to
does.
say.
But that's why you have to have a lot of productive activity. You have a lot of plate spinning, but a lot of balls in the air because some of those balls will never come down. But you have to have enough balls in the air so that those other balls don't come down. You simply don't care because some of them will come down, and you get to keep moving forward. So you have to have a lot of productive activity, I think, so that you're not counting on any one thing to happen for you. Because if it doesn't
Right.
happen, you're like, I don't care. I got this other stuff going on over here. I don't care.
James, I'm gonna ask you something very quick also. Now, with the age of AI and this competition becoming fierce, and sometimes we are waking up in the mornings seeing like one of the new features of this AI company
Yeah.
gonna kill this startup.
Yeah.
From what you're monitoring or watching, like, how this is also affecting on the founders. Anything?
Oh man, this is a good question, and I'll be honest. Like I was talking to my wife about this a lot the last couple days, and I have some significant personal things that I'm dealing with, and I am working to get those resolved. And I said, once I can get these things resolved, and I'm on the path, I feel like I'm on the path to do that. I will free up a lot of mental capacity to dig into some of these things. Like I haven't gotten into the whole vibe coding thing yet because I just haven't had the bandwidth to do it. But I'm excited to do it. I mean, I use Claude. I used to use OpenAI, ChatGPT, but I dropped that because of the politics of the co-founder. So I'm not here to support that. And so I canceled that and I spun up Claude. Actually, I like Claude. Although just like ChatGPT, Claude makes stuff up too. The thing makes stuff up. Um, so I really can't speak to your question specifically, but I do. I'm going to be picking my head up here shortly to start digging into a lot more of that stuff, and I'm excited to do it.
Great. Now, James, if someone want to reach out and seek some help, how they can do that?
So you can visit KabilaMentalHealth.com. Like everything that we're doing is right there. We if you want to be a donor to pay for mental therapy sessions for founders, great. You could go there. If you want to get on the wait list to get some mental therapy support from us, you can do that.
Do you
Um,
support internationally? Just
mm.
sorry to
so we
interrupt.
right now we're working with mostly US based founders, but I will say so we use BetterHelp on our
Hmm.
platform. So, if somebody is international and if BetterHelp is in their country, like we actually did somebody in Canada recently.
Okay.
Right now, we're primarily focused on the US, but as we raise more money, I think we'll probably be opening that up and say, hey, look, if you're in a country, if you want to do virtual mental therapy support and BetterHelp's in your country, yeah, why not? It's all the same to me. I don't care.
Amazing. And of course, traditional question. The book is available on.
Amazon, 100%. Print
Great.
and digital. The reviews are phenomenal. You can read the reviews for yourself. I mean, you've been digging into it.
It's
Sounds like you like it. So the book's great.
the book is amazing. I didn't finish it yet, but I had the chance to just go with the intro and few chapters. I
Yeah,
advise everyone to get their copy, whether digital or the print
yeah.
version on
And if I
Amazon.
may, so I know you
Please.
said you have a lot of investors who listen to this book. I have a lot of talks coming up in May for Mental Health Awareness Month. We're going to be doing a talk with the National Venture Capital Association, which is the lobbying arm in the
Nice.
United States for venture capital. Their members are VC firms, VC funds. And we need to normalize these conversations for investors. And my vision is that um, every investor, when they make an investment in a founder, like invest in the mental wellness of the founders and then give them a copy of the book. That should be here's a check, here's the wire, here's a copy of this book. Because,
Right.
you know, investing in the mental wellness of your founders is portfolio, is risk mitigation. It's a portfolio
Ab-
strategy,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right?
Like this is we discussed it before, and I'm gonna look so I don't misspell the name or anything. We had a lot of mental health related episodes on the show,
Mhm.
but you know t- mm, the last one, I think it was like 3 or 4 months ago. So the thing is, we were discussing how we can try to get even like accelerators. And I'm not sure if you have, I'm sure you maybe talked to David about it, but I mean, if you have the accelerators as well, have this part of maybe their, I don't know, their curriculum, whatever that
Mhm.
is,
Mhm.
so that would be good,
Yeah.
because like you don't want the founders to feel that they are alone and they are not able um to do it, right? So
Right.
recently I discussed this with Corey Hart, for example. This was about mental health in startups. We
Mhm.
discuss it like with multiple episodes. I have, I'm glad that I was able to at least bring awareness in my humble ways of doing things regarding that. So because look, guys, like I will not repeat what much of what James has mentioned, but it's important. Don't ignore it and don't deny it. Um, you need this. Really, you need to take care of yourself regarding this.
1,000%.
Don't don't ignore it. And thanks to and kudos to you, James, and to all the work you've done. So because of people like you, there's also a way for founders to get back to normal life and focus on building things that matter. So I'm really grateful that you were here with me today. Any final thing you want to share before we wrap it up?
Mental health is health. You're not alone, and you know, it's okay to get help if you need it.
Great. That's a great advice. Again, James, thank you very very much for being here with me today. It was a great discussion. I like the stories. I'm gonna re-highlight this again, and I'm gonna remind the audience that The link for the Kabila Founder Mental Health Fund is in the show notes. You can find the website
Yeah.
there. The book also, both versions on Amazon. If you want to directly click, you will find
Mhm.
also the link in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, you will find that in the description. And this is how I end my episode. This is for the audience. If you just discovered us by luck, thank you for passing by. I hope you enjoyed. Give me a small favor. And this is not for the sake of becoming viral or anything. As you see, we're trying to raise awareness on different topics. It's sometimes tech, sometimes something related to the founders' mental health, sometimes it's related to many things that a
Mhm.
founder, a tech executive, anyone might be benefiting from this. So give me a favor, share it with as many people as you can. And if you are one of the people who keep coming again and again to listen and seek like what's new on the CTO show, thank you very much. Because of you, since last year, and this is what keeps the show alive, and it's a non-profit show, everyone knows by now. um when I see that the podcast is ranking in the top 200 Apple Podcast chart in any country, and we keep changing the countries, this makes me continue the mission because I see there is a hope that we are reaching like new countries, new people, new cultures, and this is what make me happy, and I'm also make me grateful for people who spend the time to listen or watch the podcast. And as I say always, stay tuned for a new episode very soon. Thank you. Bye bye.